What's up and welcome back to Interpreting the Stars. Today I'm going to be starting something really special, which I call the Critics Initiative, which is a movie review marathon covering every film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, starting off, of course, with Iron Man. Here's how the Critics Initiative is going to work. I have a list of other YouTube film critics ready to join me for these reviews, and they all have their own assigned franchise. I won't list off every critic that'll be showing up throughout this project, but I will tell you who's joining me today, and that's Robbie from the Big Rob Theory. So he's going to be joining me on my channel for the following films: Iron Man 1 through 3, The Avengers 1 through 4, and hopefully Captain America Civil War, as that's every bit of an Iron Man film as it is Captain America, though you could probably also call it an Avenger film if you want. So Iron Man came out in 2008, and when it came out, nobody knew how big this universe was going to be. I didn't even know it was gonna be a universe, even with the Samuel L. Jackson appearance at the end. I just thought that this was a stinger for a sequel. To me, I just saw this as another Marvel superhero film, and I remember thinking just how bold it was for them to do a hero that I hadn't really heard about before. And then I remember how floored I was at how incredible the film was in general. Now, before I get too carried away, I did want to throw it to the Big Rob Theory right away so that he could give everybody a quick recap of the film, as well as some of his thoughts. Oh yeah, and I guess spoiler warning for those of you that have not seen the film yet. Take it away, Robbie.
Welcome back, guys. It's me, the Big Rob Theory, and in this video we're going to be talking about a classic movie, Iron Man from 2008, starring Robert Downey Jr., Gwyneth Paltrow, Terrence Howard, and Jeff Bridges, and many more big name actors and actresses. First things first, I want to thank Interpreting the Stars for inviting me on this video and this little thing that we have called the Critics Initiative. It starts off now with Iron Man, and we're going to be going through the Marvel movies. That's all I'm going to tell you about it, and hopefully you folks will enjoy what we've got going on for you. So in this movie, Tony Stark, or Robert Downey Jr.'s character, he takes over for his dad's company, and he goes over to Afghanistan to see what's going on with their weapon systems and this new weapon showcase. As he's over there, the army truck that he's in gets ambushed, a lot of the soldiers get killed, and he gets injured by various shrapnel that get released from a weapon that is actually from his company. He gets captured by this group called the Ten Rings, and basically he's being kept alive by this scientist named Ginseng, who is also held captive. While in this cave being captive and being helped by Ginseng, Tony starts getting stuff together and working with various pieces of material so that he can create this arc reactor that, when put on his chest, can get the shrapnel that's racing to his heart towards this thing on his chest, so it doesn't kill him. It actually keeps him alive and keeps the shrapnel from going to various parts and various dire systems in his body. Fast forward a little bit, he creates a suit and helps him and Ginseng escape. But when he realizes that Ginseng's dead, he kind of goes on a little angry rampage and then burns all the weapons that are there within the Ten Rings encampment and shoots off into the sky, only to fall to the ground in the desert. But at least he escaped, you know, at least he got out of there. He makes his way back to the US, and he basically tells in a press conference that, you know, while he's over there, he saw what was going on, and he wants his company to no longer manufacture weapons. Now we see some true colors of somebody coming out, Obadiah Stane, someone who works with Tony Stark and worked with his father and has a secret agenda of his own. So he kind of like tells Tony, oh, you know, this is not a good idea. That's where I kind of was like, all right, this guy, yeah, he's not necessarily a great guy. And he really wasn't. You know, it turns out that he wants to run the company for his own purposes, but also he hired the hit on Tony. Like, he tried to get Tony killed. Throughout the movie, we get Terrence Howard's character, Angel Rhodes, who Tony reveals to him that he's Iron Man, so his boy knows. Obadiah Stane, he tries to create his own suit, you know, from Tony's reactor, which he steals from him. Messed up scene. It's like, bro, you left him on the ground. Like, what are you doing? You just left him on the ground, like, dying. Oh, Tony puts on a brand new suit that he invented when he got home, which I should rewind a little bit. There's a dope scene where he goes to Ginseng's village and kind of relieves the people there and saves them from the Ten Rings. It's a really, really badass scene. One of the scenes that made me love this movie, Tony asks Pepper Potts, Gwyneth Paltrow, to, just go investigate and see what's going on. And that's when she finds out that Tony was, there was a hit on Tony. She found out there was a hit on Tony from Obadiah. So Obadiah attacks her and everybody there. Tony and him get into something and get into a battle. It's an awesome movie. This is like a great movie to start off the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And in a post-credit scene, you see Samuel L. Jackson or Nick Fury come to him and say something about the Avengers Initiative. And then we have it. We start off the MCU with Iron Man. So this movie was really great for not only for its time, but just in general, because one, I love Robert Downey Jr., but also he is Iron Man. There is no one that can replace him. He was born to play that role. Some negatives, just some of the dialogue at times was a little dated, but I mean, it's from 2008, we're in 2021. I still love the movie, but some people might be like, oh, well, that might have been, I don't know about that. Just nothing crazy. Overall, I love the pacing of the movie too. There were times where I think maybe there was too much time spent in the cave, but you also needed that time to see him go through not having his rich playboy type lifestyle. See him in the lowest slums of the low. He was injured. He needed help. Everybody usually waits on him hand and foot, but this time it was for his life, for his freedom. So it was interesting to see that too. Well, I want to thank you guys for joining me for this video today. I appreciate it if you stuck around, and I hope you enjoyed the content that I provided for you. If you haven't seen the movie, then I hope that this recap kind of puts it in an interesting picture for you. And if you have seen the movie and you agree with some of my thoughts that, this movie was dope and some scenes were really better than others, please comment down below. And if you didn't agree, tell me why. Let's discuss, Like this video if you haven't already, and please leave a comment down below. And if you aren't subscribed, hit that subscribe button and the bell next to it so you can get notifications anytime a new video is uploaded. Thanks guys. Until the next one.
Thanks to Big Rob Theory. I appreciate your quick rundown of the film and overall thoughts, and I can definitely tell that we agree on this film in general. You're definitely right when you say that Robert Downey Jr. is Iron Man, just like Hugh Jackman is Wolverine. Casting here was insane. Guys, if you haven't already, go check out the Big Rob Theory's YouTube channel. I've left a link to that in my description box down below for y'all to check out. Give them a subscribe, tell them that I sent you, and without further ado, my thoughts. So yeah, to start off with some positives for Iron Man, I just have to say that this is easily one of the best, if not the best, standalone MCU film. The further down the universe heads, the less standalone they get. More and more people from other films start showing up, and they all kind of get to be a little bit of a crossover, at least a little bit. But the beauty of this first film is just how self-contained it is, and how much of a knockout lead actor they got to play Tony Stark. Can you even imagine if they actually got somebody like Tom Cruise or somebody to play Iron Man? How far do you think the MCU would have even gotten with him in the lead? Honestly, I don't think very far. I don't think it could have gotten very far at all without Robert Downey Jr. being the heart and soul of the entire universe. I mean, one of the first big surprises for me when I first saw this film for the first time was just how funny it was. I mean, we all kind of expect a little bit of humor from Marvel at this point, but in 2008, I had no idea what I was in for, and the way they balanced humor with intensity was always seamless. And RDJ specifically knew how to bounce back and forth between cracking a joke and being dead serious when need be. He really is one of the best actors in the entire universe because of that. It's also a great example of a film with character development and watching the journey that somebody goes through when they have to take a sidestep and realize that they're wrong. And then they have to make a change. Tony Stark started off as a very prideful character, and to a degree he's always sort of had that pride, but right from the get-go, he's tasked with taking a look at his entire life and seeing the errors of his ways, and like the Big Rob Theory talked about with pacing, this is a really well-paced film. You don't even see Iron Man, the real Iron Man that is, until over an hour, because it takes its sweet time introducing you to Tony Stark, the character, to Pepper Potts, to Colonel Rhodes, played of course by the incredible Terrence Howard. I won't talk too much about Terrence Howard here, but just know that I really like him as an actor. And I was upset to hear that he didn't reprise his role later. He does a pretty good job here in general, has some pretty darn good chemistry with Downey Jr., so it's a shame to see that this was his exit in the MCU. Cinematically, this film is insanely impressive, especially with some of the visuals. Some of that CGI going into the look of Iron Man, that's really good. I mean, it looks insanely real. I think I remember watching the first Avengers movie and seeing that some of the CGI in that didn't look as good as it did here because, obviously the budget had to go into paying all the actors, which makes sense. But we'll see if I still think that when the time comes. Story-wise, really, the only thing that I have to complain about here is the same thing that I often complain about with any given superhero movie where, the villain is simply an evil variation of the hero. And I've often had the same complaint with Iron Man because it just keeps happening. So I don't love Ironmonger as a villain, but I still think even after all these years of the MCU and all these different villains that we've had, that Ironmonger was a real threat. That it felt like Tony was really going to die battling him. And the believability of that threat mostly lies within Robert Downey Jr.'s ability to act. With that being said, let's go ahead and break down my final score. From an unbiased, technical level, Iron Man is solid. It really is. It knew what it was going in, and it never went overboard with its ideas. It was very simple, yet important enough in terms of character development and depth. Its visuals were top-notch, especially for this film being 13 years old. Yes, 13. And it kick-started one of the most popular franchises, if not the most popular film franchise of all time. My unbiased score is 94%. My biased score, or how I felt with the film in general, what more is there to say? This film is incredible on multiple levels. It's funny, it's epic, it's impressive. It makes you want to watch this character again and again and again. It makes you very interested to see what comes next. If you don't already know, this was the start of something nobody knew the extent of. And I'm really excited to keep talking about it in the future with more guests. This bias score is 100%, and when we average out the two scores together, we come to the final score of 97%. 97 out of 100 possible stars, or an A+ letter grade. Thank you once again to Big Rob Theory for joining me in today's video. I'll make a seat for you in the coming days. He's going to be joining me next in Iron Man 2. But before that, I'll be joined by somebody else for the Incredible Hulk. Guys, let me know your thoughts on Iron Man in the comments section down below. And as for YouTube, you guys know what to do. Hit that like, subscribe button, and a bell to be notified when I come out with my review for the Incredible Hulk. And until then, peace out.
Dave examines movies we just watch for fun. Davey is the expert.